President Obama and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have had a frosty relationship. But today, Prime Minister Netanyahu visiting the president in the Oval Office. And this is the first meeting between the two leaders in more than a year and coming after a fresh burst of violence in Israel.
Equally, I want to make it clear that we have not given up our hope for peace. We will never give up our hope for peace. And I remain committed to a vision of peace, of two states for two peoples, a demilitarized Palestinian state that recognizes the Jewish state. I don't think that anyone should doubt Israel's determination to defend itself against terror and destruction, but neither should anyone doubt Israel's willingness to make peace with any of its neighbors that genuinely want to achieve peace with it. And I look forward to discussing with you practical ways in which we can lower the tension, increase stability, and move towards peace.
Back to White House correspondent Kevin Corke is live on the White House lawn. Kevin.
Greta, very interesting watching the two men's body language. You could kind of sense, even though they were saying all the right things, that they were just a little stiff in the Oval Office. Of course, they said all the right things for other cameras, and they tried to put a good face on that meeting today. But the two men certainly spent a lot of time off camera talking, and certainly patching things up would be a good thing, given the long history and shared security interests between the two allies. Now, they obviously were hoping to tackle a number of issues, including the Jewish settlements and the two-state solution. You heard the Prime Minister mentioning that. But also, they wanted to touch on the Iran nuclear deal, which obviously drove a wedge between them.
It's no secret that the Prime Minister and I have had a strong disagreement on this narrow issue, but we don't have a disagreement on the need to making sure that Iran does not get a nuclear weapon.
Make no mistake about it, Greta, this is a relationship born out of necessity. Yes, these two allies need each other, not just in the region, but also internationally. And I should also point out that one of the other major reasons for the Prime Minister's visit is an aid package. They're seeking a 10-year, $50 billion aid package that would certainly go a long way toward helping the Israelis defend themselves. Now, although the White House seems very amenable to that package, they did not make any announcements to that end today, Greta.
Kevin, thank you.
You bet.
And joining us, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's spokesperson, Mark Regev. Nice to see you, sir.
Happy to be with you, Greta.
Nice to interview you in person as well. We do it remote usually.
That's correct.
So were you at the meeting today at the White House with the president?
Yes, we had a very good meeting today.
It was long.
It was a long meeting. We went over time, but there were a lot of important issues on the table. And it's important to discuss those issues because Israel and the United States are allies, and we're facing very challenging times. The Middle East is going through a particularly turbulent period. We're seeing this march of radical Islamists who want to take us back to the 9th century, want to enslave women. They don't believe in freedom. They hate Israel. They hate the United States. And we've got to work together to deal with these threats.
Well, you know, the threats, at least, seem to have escalated so much in the past couple of years. You've got the situation with Iran, who constantly says, you know, it wants to, wipe Israel off the map and death to America. We've also even got the latest with President Mahmoud Abbas, who before the UN General Assembly said that he no longer sees his people as bound by the Oslo Accords. That changes everything. At least I think it does. Am I wrong?
No, there's this new radicalism in the region. A lot of it based on this Islamist extremism, this religious fanaticism, and we've got to fight it.
How do we put the lid on that? How do we stop that?
Well, we've got to defeat them militarily, and we've got to work with those moderate Arab countries who are on our side of the divide. And the truth is, and that's the good news, is that Israel today is talking to more Arab governments than ever before, and that's because they feel threatened by the same people who threaten us and threaten the United States. And that's a good thing.
It seems to me, though, that we have, I don't know if we've asked Israel, but we've asked Israel not to be involved militarily because that would only add more fuel to the fire. But that means, though, then the rest of the world has to sort of step up because you guys, your country, you're sitting ducks. You're right there. You're very tiny. Is the rest of the world stepping up?
Well, more has to be done. We have to defeat ISIS because ISIS is a threat to us all. We have to do more to deal with the danger that Iran poses. I mean, we had an honest disagreement with the administration on the Iran nuclear deal. But what we agreed today is we have to stop Iran's conventional aggression.
So what did the president say that he's going to do to stop Iran's aggression?
We're going to work closely together to stop Iran's aggression in the region. You know, the Iranians...
How?
We're going to be more involved. We're going to be cooperating closer. We're going to be fighting Iranian terrorism. We're going to be making sure that they keep to their obligations under the nuclear deal. Iran is playing a very negative role, and we've got to contain that threat.
Well, you know, the American people have sort of been watching the relationship between our two leaders, the Prime Minister and President Obama, and it's been described as frosty, chilly, you know, and you know, what's it like? What was it like today?
We had a good meeting.
Okay, so
really
very respectful and nice. And I assume that.
We really did have a good meeting, Greta. We had an honest disagreement about the Iranian nuclear deal. We didn't agree on that, but we're looking forward. And as we look forward, there's so much we can do when we work closely together, and that's good for America. That's good for Israel.
Well, Israel is our good friend. Anyway, it's nice to see you, sir.
I'm glad to be here.
And joining me, Israeli Ambassador to the United Nations, Ambassador Danny Danon. Nice to see you, sir.
Thank you.
I don't see things getting better. You've got ISIS growing. You've got President Abbas saying that the Palestinians won't be bound by the Oslo Accords. You've got Islamic extremism growing. And you've got Iran continuing to say horrible things like death to America and wiping Israel off the map. And Mark Regev says it was a good meeting for the president, so convince me.
The meeting was good, but the situation in the Middle East is not heaven. We have a villa in the jungle. Because we look at the region, we see states failing, we see ISIS gaining control of more territory every day, we see the Iranians getting stronger internationally, and also now they have more money to give to their proxies in the area, Hezbollah, Hamas, and other terrorist organizations. So it will be a challenging time for us because we will be in the front line. But the meeting was important because we had disagreement regarding the agreement with Iran. But we have no disagreements regarding the commitment of the United States for Israel's security.
But sometimes it just gets almost like unmanageable, out of control. And I forgot the part about lifting the sanctions on Iran, so now they're going to be able to fund Hezbollah and Hamas. So that's another whole other dynamic. There doesn't seem to be any improvement on any of these fronts. They only seem to me like increased danger.
It is dangerous, but we need to fight. And when you look 67 years back, unfortunately, we have a history that we fight for our existence. That is why we cannot compromise our security. We want to move ahead with peace negotiations, but we cannot compromise our security needs. And today, I think, two issues were brought in the meeting. Stability in the region. And when you look at the area where we live, the only stability is Israel. It's a beacon of stability in the Middle East. And the second issue is security. The U.S. is committed for our qualitative advantage, and we're talking about a military aid in the future. And when Israel is strong, U.S. is strong.
You are the ambassador to the United Nations from Israel. I know that in the past I've listened to Prime Minister Netanyahu speak at the UN and say that the UN is not particularly friendly to Israel. What's it like to be the Israeli ambassador to the UN?
You really want to know that?
Yes, I do.
It is not easy, Greta.
I don't think it is. That's why I asked.
Well, I see biased. I see some parties in the UN member states. They don't look at the facts. They ignore the facts. And they actually are not helping the Palestinians because they allow the Palestinian easy victories at the UN, resolutions against Israel. They allow them to raise the flags, but they don't look at the substance. Prime Minister Netanyahu said he is willing to negotiate with Abu Mazen directly. This is the only way to move forward. So they can bash us at the UN, but they cannot actually support the Palestinians without direct negotiations.
And if you look on the screen, the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, is at AEI, and we're monitoring in case there's any news, should there be any, from his speech. It certainly does seem to me that things are very bleak, and I appreciate the Prime Minister traveling all the way here to talk to our President, and I hope that I wish I saw a good sign on any of the sort of things that are happening with Israel.
I can tell you that the Israelis appreciate the support we get from the United States. We share the same values. They're fighting us because we are there. If they could have attacked the U.S., I can assure you, Hezbollah, Hamas, ISIS, they would have attacked the U.S. But you are not there. You are here, so they're coming after us.
Indeed. Anyway, Ambassador, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.